Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into a pretty fascinating concept today, healing alone. We'll be looking at an article from Stookit.nu.
Oh, yeah, I've seen their stuff.
They're known for tackling
Yeah.
some really complex social issues. And this one, it really got me thinking. It kind of challenges the whole idea that,
Oh,
healing requires support systems, being surrounded by loved ones,
right.
therapy, that kind of thing. Have you ever, tried to ignore a problem, just hoping it would magically disappear?
Oh, absolutely. I think we all have at some point.
It's tempting, right? But this article, it suggests that avoiding pain, it can actually make it stick around longer.
It's like trying to outrun your own shadow. You can't really escape it.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to explore. What does it actually mean to heal alone? And why is it so hard?
I think it's a question that makes a lot of us uncomfortable because, like you said, we're so conditioned to think of healing as
Yeah.
this external process.
Yeah, like we need someone to fix us.
Right. But what if a big part of healing is actually about going inward, facing those things we'd rather avoid,
Yeah.
and doing it well alone?
That's what this article argues. It even says that avoiding pain can actually prolong it.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive, but it makes sense when you think about it. Our brains are wired to avoid discomfort, right?
Right.
So when we experience emotional pain, whether it's grief, heartbreak, disappointment, our instinct is to kind of shut it down.
To numb it, distract ourselves.
Exactly. We binge watch shows, scroll through social media, maybe throw ourselves into work, anything to avoid sitting with those raw, uncomfortable feelings.
Oh, I'm definitely guilty of a few of those.
I think we all are.
Yeah. But is that really helping, or are we just delaying the inevitable?
That's the question, isn't it? It's like sweeping dust under the rug.
Yeah.
Might look clean on the surface, but it's still there. And it's just going to keep piling up.
The article quotes Dr. Susan David. She says that these unprocessed emotions,
It's brilliant.
she says they're buried alive and resurface in unhelpful ways.
Powerful image, right? They can come out as anger, anxiety, even physical symptoms. We might not even realize the connection.
So healing alone, it's about facing those buried emotions.
It's about making that conscious choice to be with yourself, with your pain, without immediately reaching for a distraction or a quick fix. Think about it like this. Let's say you go through a tough breakup. Instead of immediately jumping back into the dating scene or,
Yeah.
distracting yourself with a million things, what if you chose to sit with that loneliness, with the heartbreak, really feel it without judgment?
That sounds terrifying, to be honest.
It can be,
Yeah.
but it's also incredibly powerful. It's about facing the void,
Facing the
that emptiness, that discomfort, and realizing you can handle it. You don't need to fill every second with noise and activity.
Wow. I'm starting to see why this is so challenging.
It goes against everything our culture tells us.
Right. We're constantly bombarded with messages to buy this, join that, find the perfect partner. There's always something we need to do or acquire to feel whole.
And it's exhausting, isn't it? Healing alone, it's about turning inward, cultivating a relationship with ourselves.
Acknowledging that true healing, it starts from within.
Exactly. It's about self-love.
Yeah.
And not just the bubble baths and face masks kind of self-love.
Yeah.
It's the gritty, honest kind. The kind that has the courage to face those less glamorous parts of ourselves.
The parts we usually try to hide.
Exactly.
But this whole idea of intentionally seeking solitude, it's not exactly a new concept, right?
Right. This isn't just some trendy self-help thing. Think about Henry David Thoreau, Walden Pond. He was on to something way back then.
He was basically the original healing alone influencer.
Uh-huh. I love that. He wasn't running away from life. He was seeking a deeper understanding of himself and the world around him. And it's not just Thoreau. Think about all the spiritual traditions that emphasize solitude. Buddhist meditation,
Right.
Christian hermitage. These practices have existed for centuries. They recognize the power of disconnecting from the external world to reconnect with ourselves.
It's like in our modern, always connected world, we've lost touch with this essential aspect of healing. So much emphasis on, connecting with others online.
Yeah, it's ironic, isn't it?
But what about those of us who want to explore this approach? Where do we even begin? It still feels pretty daunting.
Of course. Well, the good news is there isn't one right way. What works for one person might not work for another. It's all about self-discovery, figuring out what resonates with you. It's a journey, for sure. And I think to really navigate this concept of healing alone, it helps to look at what some of the leading voices in psychology and spirituality have to say about it. This article mentions Brené Brown, Carl Jung,
Oh, yeah, I love Brené Brown.
Eckhart Tolle,
big names. Their work has really resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah, for good reason.
For sure.
Their insights, they offer a lot of depth to this whole conversation.
So let's start with Brené Brown. She's done so much work on vulnerability and shame. What's her take on healing alone?
Her work really emphasizes the importance of, leaning into discomfort. She argues that true connection with ourselves and with others, it requires us to embrace vulnerability.
Which is terrifying, right?
It can be. We often try to, shield ourselves from those difficult emotions. But Brown would say those very emotions, they hold the key to deeper self-understanding and ultimately stronger relationships.
So it's like, to build genuine connection,
Yeah,
we have to be willing to be vulnerable, to show up authentically, even when it's scary.
exactly. Healing alone, it's about developing the courage to be with your pain, to truly feel it, to allow yourself to be seen, imperfections and all.
Instead of always presenting this perfect image to the world.
Yeah, that's exhausting. And it prevents real connection.
And it probably makes healing a lot harder because you're not dealing with the whole picture.
Exactly.
Okay, what about Carl Jung? His work gets a little more philosophical.
Yeah, definitely. Jung was fascinated by individuation, becoming our true selves.
That sounds like a lifelong process.
It is. And he believed that solitude was essential for that process. He saw it as a time for deep introspection.
Like really going inward.
Yeah. And confronting those unconscious parts of ourselves.
The shadow self, right?
Exactly. He believed that by facing our shadows, the parts of ourselves we tend to hide or deny, we actually become more whole and authentic. And this idea of shadow work,
Yeah.
it's particularly relevant to healing alone. Because when you remove those external distractions,
The validation you might get from others.
right, you're forced to confront those hidden parts of yourself. There's nowhere to hide.
It sounds intense, but also kind of liberating.
It could be both. To really see yourself without filters, to acknowledge all those parts of you, the good, the bad, the messy.
The whole package.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about Eckhart Tolle. His work on mindfulness and presence.
Oh, he's amazing.
Huge impact on so many people.
Yeah, his perspective is so valuable. Tolle emphasizes the power of the present moment, right? He argues that most of our suffering comes from dwelling on the past or worrying about the future.
Oh, so true.
And mindfulness, being present, that's the key to breaking free from those patterns.
Okay, so how does that connect to healing alone?
When you're practicing healing alone, you're intentionally creating space to be present with yourself, with your thoughts, your emotions. You're choosing to sit with what is,
Yeah.
without escaping into distractions.
You're not trying to numb those feelings.
Exactly. And Tolle would say, observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment, that's what creates the space for natural healing to occur.
It's not about, like, achieving some kind of blank mind.
No, not at all. It's about cultivating awareness. And in that awareness, you may find a sense of peace, a stillness that transcends all the turbulence of your thoughts and emotions.
That seems really powerful.
It is, to find that grounding, even when things feel chaotic.
So we're not denying those difficult emotions. We're just recognizing that they're not the whole story.
Right, there's a deeper, more essential part of you that remains untouched by those storms.
I love that.
It's a beautiful realization to come to, especially when you're in the midst of healing.
So these different perspectives, they really paint a more nuanced picture of healing alone. It's not just about isolation and deprivation.
Yeah.
It's about self-discovery, confronting our shadows, being present with our whole being.
It's about courage and compassion for ourselves.
But I think it's important to acknowledge that there are critics of this approach. Some people say that healing is inherently relational, that connection is crucial.
Absolutely. We are social creatures, and much of our pain does stem from relationships with others. So it's natural to think that healing would involve those relationships too.
Right. Like talking to a therapist, having a support system.
Exactly. And this article, it doesn't dismiss the importance of connection. It suggests that one benefit of healing alone is that it can actually lead to more authentic and fulfilling relationships later on.
Because you're approaching those relationships from a place of wholeness, not seeking someone else to, like, fix you.
Yeah. You're bringing your whole self to the table.
Flaws and all.
Exactly. But critics might argue that even in the initial stages of healing, connection is essential. They might emphasize having that support system, talking to trusted friends, therapists, feeling seen and heard.
I can see both sides.
It's a balancing act, right? Honoring the need for solitude while also recognizing the importance of connection. It's not black and white.
I think the takeaway here is that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to healing. What resonates with one person might not work for another.
Absolutely.
What I'm hearing is that healing alone isn't about becoming a hermit or denying the importance of connection.
Right.
It's about recognizing that true healing comes from within, from facing our inner landscape with courage and compassion.
Beautifully said. It's about taking ownership of our own growth
Hmm.
and finding that balance between solitude and connection.
It's like this shift, right, from seeking external solutions
Hmm.
to understanding that we hold the power to heal and grow from within.
It's a powerful realization. And it's not always easy, but it's worth it.
It's so powerful. What stands out to you as the most compelling aspect of healing alone? For me, it's that idea that by facing our deepest selves, confronting our pain and our shadows, we can emerge stronger,
Yeah.
more resilient, more self-aware, and more capable of genuine connection.
It's like this paradox. By going inward, we actually expand outward in a more authentic and meaningful way.
That's a really beautiful way to put it.
It speaks to the transformative power of this approach.
Yeah.
The strength and wisdom that's within each of us.
It's inspiring, for sure.
It is.
So for our listeners who are intrigued by this concept of healing alone, what's a good starting point?
I think the most important thing is to approach it with curiosity
Mm-hmm.
and self-compassion. Don't be hard on yourself if it feels challenging.
Or if you don't know where to begin.
Exactly. Remember, there are many paths to healing, and the journey is yours to create. What matters is finding what works for you.
And we've explored a lot of possibilities today, from therapy to journaling, mindfulness to movement.
Even just spending time in nature.
So many ways to tap into that power of healing alone.
And if you're looking for more resources, I'd recommend checking out stukadi.nu. Their article was a great jumping off point.
Yeah, they have a ton of information on different social issues. Always really thought-provoking.
Definitely.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a question, something to ponder. If healing requires facing our deepest selves, what's the most challenging void you need to confront?
That's a powerful question. Give yourself the space to explore it with kindness and curiosity.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey. Even in our solitude, we're all connected in a way.
We are.
That question really makes you stop and think, It kind of brings us back to like the core of what we've been talking about, that courage to really confront ourselves, even the parts that are, well...
The messy parts, the uncomfortable ones.
Exactly. And this idea that sometimes, to truly connect with others, we need to start by connecting with ourselves. And that often means spending time alone, not in a like isolating ourselves forever kind of way,
Right.
but recognizing that solitude. It can be this incredibly powerful tool for healing and transformation.
And it's not like a one-time thing, right?
Right.
You find a partner, you build a social circle, and you're done.
Yeah.
It's ongoing.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong process of self-discovery and growth.
This whole conversation has really shifted my perspective on what it means to heal. It's not just about...
It's not just about fixing what's broken.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about like this deeper understanding, this shift from looking for external solutions to
wow.
realizing that we have this power within ourselves to heal and grow.
It's empowering, isn't it?
It is. Healing alone, it's not about rejecting connection. It's about taking ownership of our own growth.
I love that. It's recognizing that you have the capacity to heal, to become the best version of yourself, not waiting for someone else to fix you or complete you.
Yeah.
You're taking responsibility for your own well-being.
And when we do that, when we commit to our own healing journey, we become more authentic, right? More wholehearted. And then we can connect with others from this place of like strength and vulnerability.
Exactly. It creates this ripple effect. The healing you do within yourself, it radiates outwards. It impacts your relationships, the world around you.
It's like, tending to your own inner garden. The more you nurture it,
I love that.
the more beauty and abundance it can share with the world.
Such a beautiful analogy. It speaks to the potential that's within each of us.
Well, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today.
We have.
This deep dive into healing alone, it's been insightful, challenging, and ultimately, I think, really hopeful.
I agree. It's been great exploring this with you.
Likewise. And to our listener, remember, there's no one right way to heal. The journey is yours to create. Explore these ideas. See what resonates with you. And as always, keep diving deep.